Welcome to Belfast, a thriving and dynamic city of 650,000. Its origins are based in the Bronze Age, and in the past 24 years it has seen a massive redevelopment and expansion. In 2018, 5 million people passed through the city. A great percentage of this was due to the phenomenal success of programmes and films such as James Cameron's Titanic, and lately, the base for the filming of Game of Thrones. The city has a rich history of culture. Over 2 million people visited events last year within the city. This is thanks to venues such as SSE Arena, Windsor Park, the Kingspan Stadium, all enjoying the events, the love of life and the passion that they show to their culture. And for a fair bit of crack. We've came to this fair city today to meet Andy Hollinson, the CEO of the Square Meter. Andy is recognised globally as a leader in crowd safety management. So we're here to have a chat and hopefully a fair few cups of coffee. Andy, thanks for coming and doing this, man. So, I suppose the first question's got to be, how did you end up getting involved with crowds?
It was a big accident.
A big accident?
Yeah. Unlike most people, I started off in the security industry in the close protection.
Okay, yeah.
And cocky 18-year-old, knew it all. And was asked to go and work and look out a spider team to a concert down in Kent.
Okay.
And back them days, as you know yourself, you get a group of mates together who look pretty handy, stick a high-vis vest on them, and they rocked up, did a great job, and we ended up being there for several years. All went swimmingly well, so that's how I kind of fell into it and just sort of built from there.
So when you were younger, did you used to go to like football and concerts, things? Were you always interested in being in crowded environments?
No, not really. I don't really like crowds, if I'm honest. I don't really like being in them.
Being in a crowd?
It's an interesting one. I used to go and watch football occasionally and play football and things like that. So yeah, it was not something I'd ever really considered, to be honest.
So you proper fell into this?
Yeah.
Just somebody asked you?
Yeah, massively.
So you came from the close protection side, so you were used to working with people?
So I was working in events and with artists and things like that. Music awards and movie awards and things like that. So
I suppose that's one way of looking at a lot of, like, I know a fair few people that do that as a living, and how close protection people have come into the crowded environment and pay more attention to not just their artists or their principals, but to the actual people that are coming to see them.
Yeah, and I think the people involved with the artists can see that, and they can see the difference between different countries, between different arenas, and get a feel for what's good and what's bad, because some out there isn't great.
So do you see a difference up and down the country, even internationally? Do you see, some people deliver well, some people are catching up, and some people just
massive
got a long way to go?
Yeah, massive difference.
Yeah. Is there key areas where you think this country's really doing it well and others?
Well, I think in England, UK especially, we've messed it up so much. We've over the years, we kind of learned from it, so we're pretty good at it now. Yeah.
So the UK seem to have embraced their mistakes and then says, well, that can't happen again, let's move. How do we prevent that happening again? Is that what you see?
Yeah, definitely. Hillsborough's certainly the one that comes to everyone's mind. As soon as, it doesn't matter what country you're in, you ask someone to name a crowd-related disaster, and Hillsborough's always on the tip of the tongue.
Yeah. I was actually talking to somebody earlier about it, and I was like, we're now, I suppose, the sporting industry and the sporting side of crowd management is now a point where we're saying, do you know something, we're happier to step back from all-seater stadiums now. We feel like we have training in place and mechanisms in place where we can bring in things like safe standing. Do you feel we're at that point?
Well, I think there's a big difference between safe standing and terraces of the old.
Yeah.
We saw at Hills, obviously, people were just piled in there, and overcrowded it. With safe standing, you're still allocated a space, aren't you? So
Yeah, I've went to see a safe standing system, and it was fascinating to see that it is an actual seat. I just thought it was going to be when I first heard of it, I thought it was just going to be an iron bar and it'll lean against, and then I realised no, it's an actual allocated spot. You'll get your season ticket, that's where you go. And
yeah, so whilst we call it safe standing, it's exactly the same. Just as a bar there, really.
Just bar, yeah.
Not of the alcoholic variety.
So, when you're working at events, what's your favourite type of crowd to go to? What do you prefer?
My favourite type of crowd has got to be one that's in a complex environment that's not usually built for events.
Not usually built for events. Oh, so you
yeah.
mean like a temporary environment? No.
Not necessarily a temporary environment. I've worked on a lot of events that I've managed and planned myself in things like shopping centres, supermarkets.
Okay.
Where we've put 10, 15,000 people extra into a busy supermarket on a Saturday, for example.
So you've done okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah, so we ran a series of product signing tours a few years ago, and we put over 10,000 people into this big, well-known supermarket on a Saturday in the middle of a load of housing estates in the afternoon, and we started to work out these sort of factors affect the size of the crowd. So you're doing one of these events in somewhere like that in an afternoon, and then everyone's got out of bed late and they can still go to it. So there's more people coming along. It's a shopping environment, people are already there.
I suppose the only time people think about shops and crowds is when you see the horrific videos from places like America where they do the Black Friday sales, and they just see, I suppose, carnage of people just trampling on one another, and, so
for a TV.
Yeah, for a TV, a cuddly toy.
Yeah.
So you never think of somebody actually going there and saying, no, we can do 10,000 people and make it a safe environment, and the shop can still operate.
Yeah. It's very fast moving, fast paced. You've got to think on your feet. There's a lot of things that will happen that wouldn't happen at normal events. So I guess the type of events I like are difficult ones, where there's lots of moving parts to it. There's lots of challenges, and as a crowd safety manager as well, you need to be thinking on your feet. Constantly thinking on your feet with things out of the ordinary.
That is a very good point. It's like I suppose you can plan and you can go to planning meetings and have team meetings and all types, but there's always something that's going to be there, and you've thought, but I hadn't thought about that one. It was just a unique event.
Well, that's the thing about complex event sites and one-off event sites as well. There's no historical data to work on. So if a client contacts you and says, we want you to make this event safe in the supermarket on a Saturday, no event's ever happened in that supermarket before. You've got to strategically plan that right, and then on the day you've got the tactical implementation of that. It's just you're on your feet. You're thinking fast. You cue these people out the way. If you put that event in the store, in the supermarket, in the wrong place on a Saturday, they could lose hundreds of thousands of pounds. Mm-hmm. And of course that's no good for anyone.
I suppose the only thing I could really relate is the masses would probably know is the Boxing Day sales or the Christmas sales, where you see a big queue outside the shop and there's a little man at the front, and that is basically just a couple of people, a little man at the front. But even years ago we never had that in place, so I suppose that had to just probably take it to somebody like yourself and saying, we can control this better for you and you'll get more sales out of it because it's controlled.
We did something like 50, 60 in a year in large-scale supermarkets, and I'm talking the big three supermarkets we were working for, and let's say they could lose hundreds of thousands of pounds at the wrong time of year, and it's upwards of that if it's not planned properly, and that crowd movement's not correct through that store. So
when you started doing that, have you seen an industry that's evolved to embrace, bespoke events, unique events? It's not just there's a stadium, we can fill it with 50,000 people, or there's a park and we'll put a fence and a stage in it and we'll just have a concert. I suppose the iconic event in the UK would have been the Stones at Hyde Park back in the 60s. Let's put a stage in the middle of a park and let the masses turn up.
I think from 2012, from the Olympics, it left a bit of a legacy for these type of events. Not necessarily ones in supermarkets, but certainly street races. we had them before. I was involved with the Tour de France back in 2007 as it came through the south, but it's them kind of events that start to leave a bit of a legacy, and now we see all sorts of Ride London and Yorkshire races and things like that, or bike races on the streets.
Do you think the Olympics helped the country to embrace these things and realise, yeah, we can have these things? Yeah.
Definitely, it's a lasting legacy from it, isn't it? They've put this idea in, like, we can turn the Mall into a venue of its own, and we can shut the streets of London for a bike race. And
what was that? I was watching a video the other day, and it was the Formula 1 cars in London.
Formula E.
Formula E.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah. I suppose, yeah, you're right. So before the Olympics, it would have been, no, let's not do that.
And it's normal in other places. When you go to Monaco, of course, the road is the racetrack. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing that. But when you start to look at other types of events, these pop-up events and things that happen.
So did you see a challenge in, where we were 20 years ago, or even pre 2012, where people want to do different Formula E events, cycling events? We've had the increase in the use of marathons and things again. So do you see that companies are more willing to experiment and bring these things to cities and within inner city areas, and it provides a complex environment for you? Do you find a challenge in that?
I love the challenge of a complex environment. You give me a blank piece of paper and that's your event site. Make it safe.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah, I love that. I work best under pressure, and I like to do things that haven't been done before. We were given a big venue at Wembley for once, just outside Wembley, that no one had been able to manage before, and we put a crowd management solution into a series of nightclubs that were causing a problem for the police up there, and it worked really well. But yeah, the people are getting more creative with events, I think. Mm-hmm. The visual, I think, again, the Olympics brought together what could be done. And for me, I've never noticed events going all out to put on a massive show at the start. And like Russia, for example, they did a great job of their opening ceremonies and the World Cup. But it's all after 2012. I think we may have started something off, to be honest, again.
I would completely agree with you on that one. I've seen an escalation of, the Olympics was always an iconic event where, you'd have the athletes going round, but I suppose, and I'll be 100% honest on this, I had no interest in the Olympics whatsoever in London.
Agreed.
You can tell by the accent Scottish. It was a million miles away from it. And I sat down that night, the opening ceremony, and for that moment I was hooked on the Olympics. I had no interest in seeing any of the sports, and I was on watching it every day. And it was fascinating to see all those people coming in, and being in the security industry myself, I was saying, how did they do that? And then you're seeing streets getting shut down, and they're doing, and you're like, how does that happen? How did they get that to work in a city like London?
Well, it's brilliant. I did a lot of planning for the Olympic torch relay.
Okay.
As in the crowd safety side of things, leading up to a little house in London that's quite famous. And we had some short time periods to strategically plan it all, and there were stations being shut in areas, and you're looking at that sort of event. As we all know, with free events, it's a once-in-a-lifetime event for people to see the Olympic torch going past their front door. So we planned a big one down in Kent and then moved up towards London. But there was lots of challenges associated with that.
I suppose that as a nation, the UK's embraced these iconic events now. The Olympics, obviously a few years ago, there was a concert on a beach in the South of England that seemed to attract a few people, and that was a great learning experience, and I've seen a lot of literature on it and taking learnings for that. But as a nation, do you feel like we're definitely embracing iconic events and going to more crowded events?
Yeah, and people have seen what happened in them, so now they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the Birmingham Commonwealth Games. I think that'll be a massive.
Commonwealth Games.
a massive thing. But you look at, like I say, the Olympic torch relay, councils were saying to me, we don't think many people will turn up. It's the once in a lifetime event going past your front door.
Cool.
People will turn up in the thousands, and they did, and it was great. But by far, most of them went without incident. But strategically planning that, we're never going to get to do that again in a lifetime.
I went off.
It was good to do it. There's a lot to be learned from it. I put a front of stage pit barrier outside the big house in London, which I think may be a first. And
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it
doesn't really go with the fencing.
No, it didn't fit in, but it proved it was needed.
It was needed
because there's lots of people, and they decided to do a touch point with the torches right in front of the house, and didn't want everyone getting squashed up against the fence. We wouldn't have liked it.
So that's a simple thing you've just said there, and it's quite interesting. You put front of stage barrier, something that's designed for a concert, but you put it on the streets of London. So what made you think I'm going to need something more robust?
The problem is, I think we always, as crowd managers, have to work to the worst possible denomination, I guess. The worst possible thing could happen. We've got a big house, we've got fences in front of it, we've got an unknown amount of people that want to stand in front of them fences, and maybe a glimpse of the people that live in that house. The crowd moves forward, we don't want anyone squashed against that wall, and we don't know how many people are going to be in that crowd. So work to the worst possible case, and we need a load-bearing barrier in that position that is going to be able to do the job, really, and not just keel over.
So we're talking in quite a short period of your life. You've went from getting asked to go to a venue, supply some
mates,
with a vest on.
Yeah.
Probably, I'm going to guess, a bit too tight. Probably a bit tighter these days now. And now you're putting, in the middle of London, you're talking about load bearing and people per square metre.
Yeah.
So how did you get to discover all this? What brought you to that?
Well, basically, after working at these events that I fell into, I was asked to look after another event, which no one died at. Everyone was safe, and the people, by their own admission, that attended the event had a wonderful time.
Okay.
However, I guess when you're a professional, you're looking in at all the things that are sort of going wrong at an event. Perhaps you may notice them where the audience don't. And the event I worked was only supposed to be for around 10,000 people, and double that turned up.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was lots of challenges associated with having double the amount of people on site. There was fake tickets. There was all the sort of kind of things that these days that we plan ahead for. But back then it was, oh wow, to think on our feet here. But there were so many little things happening. I'd say everyone had a great time that was at the event, but it sparked my interest more in crowds and how crowds form, how they come together, how they act when they're together, how they behave.
Okay.
And how you can sort of proactively plan for managing them crowds. So
where did you go? Was it a book?
I went off to Bucks University.
Okay.
I went on the magic power of Google and had a look at what was available, and came across this foundation degree at Bucks University, and signed up.
You signed up?
Yeah, in at the deep end again, into the unknown. So
how old were you then?
It was 2008.
So a good bit into your life, and you've decided to go
late 20s.
Late 20s, and you've decided to go back to further education.
Yeah, I went back to university. I was there for 2 years, where I met Mick Upton.
Okay.
Mick very quickly became a mentor and a friend, and pushed me continuously through the university. So I stayed there for 2 years, passed the degree with a merit, which I was a bit upset about because I wanted a higher mark, and then got the bug for it, and ended up staying on for the first ever BA Honours in Crowd Safety Management, believed to be the first in the world. Topped that up, came away with a first.
Congratulations.
And shocked myself with that one. But that was a lot more detailed study. There was a lot more analysis of previous events that happened, and looking at the psychology of how people behave in the situations.
So you've went, over the course of 3 years, you've went from that first 5 minutes in the classroom, going back to school technically, to walking out with a first class honours.
Yeah.
And a subject that very few people understand. How's that set your mind on working on events and working with crowds now? What's that done for you?
What it did for me was, I was well aware, by the time I'd started there, I'd worked a lot of events. I'd run a lot of events, I'd worked in the close protection industry and various other bits. And in my own head, I thought, I know a bit about this, but it opened my eyes to how little I probably did know just from experience. I think the foundation degree was put together by a lot of really talented people with a lot of experience, and they all shared their collective experience that we then studied and learnt from their mistakes. Obviously, the wise man learns from other people's mistakes, and it was just really good. I learnt lots of different things about different subjects, and it enabled me to enhance what we were doing, how I did my crowd safety planning. And then when we got into the BA Honours, I was getting right into the theory of it, understanding why people do it now. We've researched how things should be done, and now we're understanding the mindset of people, the psychology of it.
Did you feel that extra step elevated your delivery and understanding of the subject?
I don't think it made me any better as a crowd safety manager. It did, well, I say that, but it made me understand things a lot better. I'd say the psychology of things was a new thing to look at.
You've mentioned it a few times, the psychology of a crowd. Up until 5 years ago, it was in Scotland, it was the punter. The person that came to an event was a punter, and that was it. You looked at football fans and you say, like a beer, like a fight, and that was it. But over the past 5 years, I've learnt that it's individuals all just gathered, and everybody's different, and how that comes together. It is a fascinating subject. You can people can make their careers on it. Do you feel like there's enough understanding of that in the industry?
I think it's grown. Obviously, the psychology of crowds and things like that. There's some guy in France decided to mention it in the 1800s and write a book, which is still available now. Since then, there's been lots of psychologists who have had varying opinions on crowd psychology and how they work together. I've learned a lot in the last few years from Professor John Drury, who I do quite a few things with here and there, and he's constantly putting theories and ideas about crowds to the industry, and he's fast becoming one of the sort of the lead. Well, he is the leader, the voice for that, and that's changed my mindset on crowds as well.
I'll put it down to all our social network platforms are available. I'll put it down to Twitter, the fact that I found Professor Drury, and it was his passion for sharing and passing it on and passing it on. Do you feel like social media has helped us as an industry to get information to one another? Because I remember when I first started in the industry, it was all very knowledge is power, we'll hold it in, and if I know it, then another company might not, so I'll get that work. Do you feel we're more open to sharing now?
Some people are. And that's the only way really the industry's going to improve, by everyone sharing the knowledge. We had a conversation at the recent crowd safety conference about, and it's been mentioned a number of times before, about airline near misses and things like that. It's always shared that information, and if we don't share that information about events, then we're never going to learn. And I think one of the key things I learned from my time at university, and certainly when Mick Upton started to talk to us about extreme value analysis and looking at past incidents and sort of benchmarking, the internet especially, we're in a great position to do that now. There's no excuse for not being able to do that. Years ago, I guess you'd have had to go to the library or dug up some old newspapers or something to find out if there'd been a crowd crush at an event. Now we can do it from our phone. In a matter of seconds, we can research events, what's happened at them, and make sure it doesn't happen again. It's not acceptable for these people to be saying, I didn't foresee this happening, I couldn't have foreseen this happening. We've heard that mentioned quite a few times. I
remember the first time meeting Mick and I'm talking about this. Was it Pink Floyd at a venue in London, and something happened to the seats. And I was working on a venue that had similar seats. So suddenly I started doing research into it all to find out, and we discussed it as a team too. And Mick just brought that to life. I mean, do you think Mick done that with a lot of things? Do you think he just brought that out in people and got them enthused?
Mick was great at passing on knowledge, and he always had a story to go with that. And them stories brought it to life, certainly.
Yeah.
Them examples of incidents he'd been involved with, for example, that it relates to. And it is true, you can research these events really easily now. You can find out similar events where there's been a problem. We look at the incident that happened the other day in a kid's nursery, using outdoor fireworks inside a kid's nursery. It was just like at the Station nightclub in America, for example.
Yeah.
Fireworks going off inside. I know it's only a kid's nursery, but still
got the same effect.
There's no excuse not to learn.
I remember sitting in a room with Mick and he was talking about a couple of deaths at a festival that I used to attend, before I got involved in the industry, and it sank home to me. This was a man that was, sharing knowledge from 20 years previous, and I'm only hearing about it now. And I suppose you're right, you have social media platforms that share so fast. I feel like I spend half my life on Twitter, just knowledge, information, because I feel like if I can be part of the chain, I can pass on. So after years of development, we've brought in a degree in crowd safety management. Two. The world seems to have went a little bit health and safety mad. Yeah. We've wrapped people in cloth and wool, and we're willing to step back a bit now. But what do you see as being the biggest challenges in the industry just now?
One of the biggest challenges for us is the media.
Okay.
More than anything, a good example recently, we saw some crowds a few weeks ago at Westfield running out of the shopping centre in reaction to an incident that was happening. The police, especially in the message from the counter-terrorism police in the last couple of years now, has been run, hide, tell. So the minute people do that now, the media are reporting that there's mass panic, people are trampling on people's heads, and I think I put something on Twitter about it the other day because it's just ludicrous. The media want to sell stories, but it doesn't help with managing the crowds, because people in one mind we've been told to run, another mind the media are going to say we're panicking. I'm not panicking, but I think the media don't help us with crowds at all.
Is that the use of emotive words like panic, stampede?
Yeah,
things like
certainly.
that.
If people are running and you've told them to run, surely the message is working.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
So I think the media are a hindrance. The lack of uniformity in the way crowds are managed, I think, is a problem. And I think that comes down to the fact, especially in England and the UK especially, is there's no legislation in place around crowd managers and what we do. So if I want to go and work at a festival as a response team member, for example, I need to go and do a 6-day training course. I need to pass that training course, pass four exams. I need to get a licence to practice, to be a door supervisor, to work on a response team. If I want to be a crowd safety manager responsible for hundreds of thousands of people's lives, I've got a fabricated CV and some fabricated references potentially, you suggest, but
just put it on your CV. I'm a crowd manager.
I'm a crowd manager. I've done it before, and if you get a lucky break, you're away, and it's easy as that. And that doesn't seem right to me. I think there should be some more stringent legislation. And I know Mick was always an advocate of some kind of licensing of crowd managers to prove they were trained and competent
person
to be doing that role. And I think he had in mind about varying levels of that as well, because his argument was always the foundation degree was a stepping stone. It's not a case of go and do a foundation degree and you are now a crowd manager and you can look after millions of people.
That is fascinating, because the new edition of the Green Guides just came out. And they're saying that having your spectator safety certificate to level 4 for a safety officer isn't enough. They want more now. They're saying this is us. We're at a level that we're happy with. I always believe that safety officers are very well trained and they've brought through that process, as you're saying, that this is a fit and competent person. But now they're saying, what's the next stage?
I've got my own opinions in regard to the training for safety officers. I don't think it's up to scratch.
Okay.
I don't think there's enough learning goes into it. So I welcome what the SGSA have done with that and said extra things need to be done. Good example, complex environment again, or a multi-use venue. You put a concert in a football stadium, a whole different dynamic of crowds. A One Direction concert or that type of band with a predominantly younger audience profile, opposed to your hardcore football fans on a Saturday afternoon. It's a whole different dynamic of things that could go wrong. So, it's,
I get that. So do you feel like there should be, if a football stadium wants to do anything out with football, they should have a crowd manager available to use to help them look at that bigger picture, from the last mile to the departure?
It certainly wouldn't hurt. Certainly the spectator safety level 4 on its own isn't enough for that type of event.
No.
And that should be seen as a stepping stone as well. Because you might work in a non-league club, you might work at some of the biggest Premier League clubs. It's the same qualification. But again, it's varying sizes and crowds and different experience levels that are required.
So do you feel that crowds are, we've got degrees now, we're safety officers and crowd managers, do you feel like we are providing a safer environment for crowds these days?
If we define we as
an industry,
geographically based, I would say it depends on where you are.
Okay.
There's lots of really good people I've met around the world who are fantastic at their jobs, and they're in lots of different countries. But there's lots of different countries that don't have any systems in place at all as well. So it needs some kind of uniform standard, and a lot of people are looking to the UK, to the SGSA for the Green Guide and various things, and adopting a version in other countries. We just need to keep raising the profile of the industry, raising the education, raising how we do things, and sharing that knowledge. A good example, at the International Crowd Safety Conference a few weeks back, a guy from the New South Wales Police, Mick Rochester, came over. Really good guy, and he didn't come to the UK, we went to him, delivered some training, and he's managed to implement that within the police force in Australia, and they do a great job over there. But it's good to see that we're all using the same methods on different sides of the planet.
So the other side of the world,
so
your learnings have went there and now they're developing.
Yeah, so as long as we keep sharing the information, the learning, everyone starts to learn the same way, and it's all developed from what Mick originally put together.
So you touched on it there. You've now put together a conference twice to bring people interested in crowds and safety into one room. What possessed you to try and tackle something like that?
That's a good question. It's very much for sharing the information. The conference we just had, we had 200 people from over 15 countries, from as far as Australia, New York. People came from all over the world. So what's relatively a small conference. If we keep scaling that up year on year, keep it free so it's affordable for people, and that's the important thing. We take away that financial burden for people, there's no excuse for people to learn. So by keeping the conference free and running it all over the world if possible, gets the message out and gets everyone doing things the same way. So
just bring everybody together into one room and let it happen?
Yeah, share the knowledge.
So what would your, if somebody wanted to get into this strange industry that is crowd safety or crowd safety management, what would your advice be to them?
Again, without being too biased, they need to get into a company that's providing a professional crowd management service, and there are some really good companies out there. We don't actually get involved with that ourselves, but there's lots of good companies out there that are providing crowd management at arenas, football stadiums. Get yourself into a permanent job. You can go and work at arenas 5-6 nights a week. Build your knowledge, get that experience, and like with everything, don't limit your knowledge to one type of arena. So go to football, work at festivals, work at arenas, like, see the difference in the different types of crowds, how they interact, how they move, and the associated issues, and just gain a wealth of knowledge, really.
That is a great way to end. Thank you for your time, Andrew. Thank you for coming to talk to me, man. Pleasure.
Thanks.
Well, that was our first episode of Coffee with Crowds. I'd like to thank Andy for coming over, speaking to us, showing us that for a job that he fell into by accident, he has got a passion about, managed to get a degree out of, and has now moved on to greater things, working on iconic events around the world. I recommend that you go and visit his website, The Square Meter. Lots of training courses on there. If you are interested in anything to do with crowd management, that is a very good place to start. Also, I'd like to thank Cafe Parisian, and I highly recommend that you come and get a coffee here. See you later.